Now, the first situation, it's already hit the news, of course, so you might have seen this already. Front page, I believe, or the actual headline. The trafficking list upon which we found ourselves in Tier 2, I believe in last year's list, and now we've maintained that standing, mainly because of the same reasons. We have legislation we haven't convicted anybody with, despite the fact that it's not as though anyone is going to say we are devoid of human trafficking crimes here in TNT. And there seems to still be this contention about corruption and official collusion within the government, senior government officials. That was a highly debated term, regardless of who it implies, whether it's public servants or elected officials. The fact that that potentially is still there, the crimes are still ongoing, it has kept us at Tier 2, where, well, we're not doing enough. We're trying, but we're not doing enough. We're not doing even the minimum, I think is the term used, in order to get out of Tier 2 status, the minimum to try to eliminate trafficking. It acknowledges that we're making significant efforts. But the thing about significant efforts, we're not really seeing any results. It's one thing if we had a lot of human trafficking and some traffickers, you know, too few were caught and convicted. But when you see none, is that really what significant efforts means? Now, it's hard to know exactly how much work is being done behind the scenes, because I feel as though, think about it, we have these issues with various parts of our government. Not the government, not the majority in parliament government, but the actual overall structure itself that consists of public servants and elected officials, all the systems, the bureaucracies, etc., etc. And I do find that perhaps we've reached a point where our government has grown too large and the systems of management and control and accountability, etc., etc., utilized to manage the public service perhaps are insufficient now. And maybe they need to be overhauled. I've called for public sector reform before, I believe last year or the year before. And the thing is, even the local government reform that the Prime Minister is championing in his last public speech, one of the examples of why he thought it was necessary was, well, a poor situation due to public servants allowing to act unchecked. Now, I think in law enforcement, the various services are not immune to this phenomenon, where it's the same sort of ills that's affecting our public service, and perhaps we need to really look at everything. The service commissions, the police service commission included, all of our national security apparatus, with regards to hiring, firing, promoting, training, all of these things, but also with regards to the civil areas of government, right? With the administrative side and all the various ministries and offices. And I mean, look, there are complaints that there are too many special purpose companies, but the special purpose companies is one solution, seemingly an imperfect one. The government's public, local government reform plan also seems to be another solution for that part, but it also seems to have its own imperfections. And to what extent now are the solutions being put forward just going to give us side grades? Not upgrades, not necessarily downgrades. We just shift to the side, we have different problems, or maybe the same problem, but from a different situation. And the pity is, and what Karen said 2 weeks ago, where there was a plan, at least with regards to law enforcement, and going after corruption, and going after big money, in crime, which means the people at the top, not the people at the bottom, by using financial intelligence, by using tracking the money, right? By using the revenue authority, etc., etc. They had 3/5 majority to enact these things at the time, but not everything was followed through. Some of it, like the plans for the Coast Guard, radar and vessels and choppers, that overall, fleet of assets, well, that was dismantled by the incoming government. Meanwhile, some of the legislation was not passed and was passed now by this current administration, but with simple majorities. Everything has a simple majority. And to what extent has the legislation been compromised, despite the fact that they say no, it hasn't? You pass procurement with a simple majority, I believe. If not procurement, at least with the gambling legislation, and now the property tax and several other things. Simple majority, are they going to be as robust as what you could have passed with a 3/5? The flip side is, would the opposition have participated? Would they have helped? And that's the thing. Like, when we have to kind of have these compromise solutions across the board. Look, even back in 2010, the Revenue Authority identified the fact that, look, we have certain issues with public servants. We need for this new Revenue Authority to ensure, if we're going after corruption, we have to have things in place to ensure that corrupt individuals don't get positions in the Revenue Authority, especially in the enforcement division of that authority. And the current situation kind of doesn't seem to really have similar stringent requirements in place. It has some of it, which is why we believe it's a contentious issue now with the two institutions that the Revenue Authority replaces. It's not automatic that you're going to get your job from Customs or from Inland Revenue automatically into the Revenue Authority. So I get it, I understand. They have provisions in place. Cool. But it's important, right? I mean, crime is an issue, right? And we just kind of keep going the way we're going. And now, human trafficking, same thing. We're not actually seeing anybody come up with good ideas to deal with the problems. They just, well, we put more money and we say we'll put all of our efforts and we put 100%, 150%, 200%. Nothing changes. And we're not demanding for better. So I'm not entirely sure. What does the country expect? What do you want? Are you fine with this level of crime? You can't just say I don't like it and then expect the people who are in charge for the last 20 years, both sides of the aisle, to keep doing what they're doing and somehow things will be fixed. Yeah. Meanwhile, that Revenue Authority situation, switching to the second topic now. Sorry. The second topic actually is about, there's a growing black market illegal trade of car parts and stolen vehicles. And apparently it's gotten so ruthless. Well, they know that you might have GPS or other anti-theft devices. They'll still take your car, take the part, and abandon the car because cost of parts are skyrocketing. And I wonder, to what extent is this a situation? And this theory was given by the TTPS at the press conference. And I think there's some merit here. It's not just the fact that crime is growing, but the fact that they'll steal a car just for a part. It means that the actual market, the legitimate market, things potentially are out of whack. They're unbalanced. And we've allowed it to get to an unhealthy position where now it's lucrative in a criminal sense just go after a single part. It's something to look at. I get it. The car dealerships, they don't want to store parts because they lose money. That's why things take so long, because they have to order everything. And at a time when international trade had some major hiccups after COVID, But we as a society don't demand better customer service enough. So they all get away with it. They all do it. And no one sees the incentive of trying to rise above his competitor, apparently. Because, hey, we just sit down and take it. Kind of like crime. Kind of like what I just said about crime. We're just accepting whichever government of the day gives us. And the murder rate goes up and people complain to the heavens and they complain to the rain and they complain to the oceans and they complain to the clouds, but don't really do anything about it. Now, crime is finding new opportunities in TNT. Last thing, and I'll leave you with this. I can't go into it, but I did say about the new revenue authority, and it's in the courts where, you know, the PSA and employees they're trying to, well, they don't want the revenue authority to go as is because they have concerns about job security. The latest avenue in the legal case is with regards to the judge and one of the lawyers involved. There's concerns about a conflict of interest. And I understand that. And I will be the first person to say, err on the side of caution, don't do it if there's a potential conflict of interest. Just look at what happened with regards to the president being sworn in, and then she awards her husband silk, and it just looks bad. And you could avoid that without giving her the presidency, with getting another candidate, right? I'll still say that perhaps we do need, as a society, to look at these things and understand that it's not so clear-cut. Like, it's not just an absolute thing where we just stamp out our conflict of interest. Because we are a small society, and to what extent now is the best candidate legitimately going to be dequalified because of such conflicts of interest? And will we now want to say, do we want that, yes, just don't consider them? And it's fine if that's what we actively think, but if we're just defaulting that because we haven't really thought it out or discussed it, I'm kind of not okay with that. I would like to see, and I don't even know if we really have a proper forum for this. This is something that perhaps will not really be properly discussed and debated. Parliament is a joke when it comes to these things most of the time. But I think it is something as a society that we need to make a positive, affirmative determination on. Because it's not automatic that every situation that looks like a conflict of interest is done in bad faith. Given how our society is and how our politics is, though, I can't blame people for making that assumption. But to what extent does it hurt us in the other direction as well? It's something to consider, because at the end of the day, like I said, I tend to say, don't risk the perception of a conflict of interest. I'm not sure if that should be an absolutist or an automatic assumption in all cases. It's something to examine.